Found out my wife's best friend was her secret friend with benefits, so I kicked her out. Filed for divorce and got DNA tests for my 2 kids. I, 39 male, never thought I'd be posting on here. But man, sometimes life throws you curveballs that hit you right in the face when you least expect it. After lurking for years, figured I'd share my story since it's been a wild ride. Maybe it'll help someone else spot the red flags I missed before they waste 15 years of their life like I did. Some background: I run my own construction business, specializing in commercial renovations and high-end residential projects. Started with literally nothing but a toolbox and a beat-up 1995 F-150 after dropping out of college when my dad got sick. Those first years were brutal, living on ramen, working 100-plus hour weeks, underbidding jobs just to build a reputation and portfolio. Now, 15 years later, I've got 8 full-time guys working for me, a fleet of 5 trucks, and we clear about $180,000 to $220,000 a year after expenses. Not fuck you money, but enough to live comfortably in our area without sweating bills. My grandpa was my hero growing up. After my dad split when I was 10, classic going to get cigarettes scenario, except he actually did leave a note, and my mom had to work double shifts as a nurse to keep the lights on, Grandpa stepped up. He taught me everything: how to fish, how to build things with my hands, how to change oil and fix engines, how to be a man. When he passed away 17 years ago from a heart attack, he left me his house. Nothing fancy, just a solid 3-bedroom ranch on a nice 2-acre piece of land outside the city. But it meant everything to me. I've spent years slowly renovating and expanding it. Added a workshop out back, finished the basement, put in a proper deck where I could grill year-round. I met Sarah, 37 female, at my buddy's housewarming party back when I was 24. She was way out of my league. Tall, blonde, killer body that she obviously spent serious time maintaining, always perfectly put together with that expensive-looking casual style some women have. At the time, I was still driving that same beat-up truck, working 14-hour days, and living in a crappy apartment where the shower would randomly go ice cold. Honestly, I was shocked when she gave me her number. Looking back, there were so many red flags from day one that I was too inexperienced, and frankly, too horny, to notice. First date, she asked what kind of work I did, but her interest visibly peaked when I mentioned owning my own business, rather than just working construction. Then came the questions about growth potential, and where I saw myself in 5 years. When I mentioned my 5-year plan to double my crew size and take on larger commercial projects, I could practically see dollar signs in her eyes. She seemed disappointed when I showed her my apartment on the 3rd date, but perked right up when I mentioned inheriting my grandpa's house that I was renovating on weekends. She asked to see it the very next day, and while walking through, she started talking about the potential and how she could really make this place beautiful with the right furniture and decor. Should have seen her face when I told her I planned to gut the kitchen and master bath myself rather than hiring it out. Like she was mentally calculating how long that would take and whether it was worth the wait. We dated for about a year before getting married. The sex was incredible at first. The kind where you're late to work because you can't keep your hands off each other. She was way more adventurous than any girl I'd been with before. Looking back, she was definitely love-bombing me. But what 25-year-old guy is going to question regular mind-blowing sex with a gorgeous woman? One of Sarah's non-negotiables was that we both cut off any X's or FWBs completely. No exceptions. Made me end a 10-year friendship with Jessie, who I briefly dated in high school for like 3 months when we were 15. It sucked because Jessie was a good friend who helped me through my dad leaving and my mom's depression afterward. But Sarah insisted it was inappropriate and disrespectful to maintain any connection with an ex. "Would you want me hanging out with guys I used to sleep with?" she'd ask. Of course not, so I agreed. Fast forward to now. We have 2 kids, Amy, 14 female, and Josh, 10 male. Amy's smart as hell, already talking about colleges, and has my work ethic. Josh is a great kid too, bit quieter than his sister, crazy about soccer and those Minecraft videos. Sarah hasn't worked since Amy was born, claiming she wanted to be a full-time mom, which would be fine if she was actually, mothering. But our kids are in school all day. We have a housekeeping service that comes twice a week. My suggestion after she complained constantly about being overwhelmed by housework, and most of her time seems to be spent shopping, at the spa, or lunching with friends. Meanwhile, I'm still pulling 60-hour weeks growing the business. My buddy Ryan, 40 million, owns the gym where I work out. Only place I get any peace sometimes. About 6 months ago, his brother Devin, 38 million, needed a job after moving back to town following a divorce. I hired him to handle some of our smaller projects, mostly residential stuff that I was too busy for. Seemed like a good dude, worked hard, didn't bitch about the occasional weekend shift, so we sometimes grabbed food after work on Fridays. Last month, we were at this burger place near the job site, and when I showed him pics of the backyard setup I'd just finished, he noticed Sarah in one of the photos and mentioned he recognized her from back in the day. I didn't think much of it until he said, "Small world that you ended up marrying Mike's girl." Mike? I asked, confused. Mike who? Mike Lawson, he said, looking equally confused. Tall dude, dirty blonde hair. They were a thing for years before you came around. Everyone used to call them the golden couple in that crowd. My stomach fucking dropped. Mike, 39 male, has been Sarah's good friend since before I met her. He's at every family BBQ where he's always the first to compliment my grilling skills. Kids' birthday parties where he brings the most expensive gifts, even came on vacation with us to the beach house I rented a couple times. And yeah, we do look similar. Both 6 feet 1 inch, athletic build, same color hair. I'd actually joked about it before. Hey, if Sarah ever gets tired of my ugly mug, at least she's got a backup model ready to go. Fucking hilarious in retrospect. They weren't dating, I said, my food suddenly tasting like cardboard. They're just friends. Always have been. Devin got this look on his face like he'd just stepped in something nasty. They definitely weren't just friends, man. They were hooking up for at least 3 years. Everyone in that circle knew it. She practically lived at his place senior year of college. They went to Cabo together for spring break. That night, I couldn't sleep. Called my brother Tyler, 35 million, at midnight. He hemmed and hawed, but finally admitted he knew all about Sarah and Mike's history. Had known since our fucking wedding, when he overheard some of her friends joking about it, but never said anything because he didn't want to cause problems, and thought it was in the past anyway. Some brother, right? I spent the next day in a fog, going through job sites on autopilot while my mind raced. Every memory of Mike and our lives was playing on repeat in my head like some sick highlight reel. All those times Sarah insisted he come to family events because he's like family. The inside jokes they shared. How she always seemed more dressed up when she knew he'd be around. How she'd laugh just a little too hard at his jokes. The way they'd sometimes have hushed conversations that would stop when I approached. That night, I waited until Sarah took Josh to soccer practice and Amy was at her friend's house studying. Then I found Sarah's old laptop in the storage closet. The one she stopped using last Christmas when I bought her the newest MacBook Pro, along with the designer purse, bracelet, and weekend spa retreat. I always went overboard with gifts, trying to make her happy, trying to be enough. The password was still our anniversary date with an exclamation point at the end. Typical lazy security from someone who never thought they'd get caught. What I found made me physically sick. First, I checked her old Facebook messages, scrolling back to around when we got engaged. There was a whole conversation between her and her friend Amber, 38 female, that made me want to put my fist through the wall. Amber: "So, you're really going through with marrying the contractor? What about Mike?" Sarah: "Mike's fun, but he's not husband material. Dave has his own business in that nice house. Plus, he's easy to manage LAL. Amber: "But you're still gonna keep Mike around, right?" Sarah: "Obviously. Dave's clueless. As long as Mike and I are just friends, everything will be fine. Besides, Dave makes good money now, and it'll only get better." Amber: "Savage girl. But what if Dave finds out you guys were more than friends?" Sarah: "He won't. I made him cut off his ex from high school while convincing him Mike and I are just buddies. Men see what they want to see." Amber: "You're terrible, LOL, but I guess it's smart to have a good provider who doesn't ask questions and still keep the hot guy around for whatever." Sarah: "Exactly. Best of both worlds. Dave's sweet and he worships me, but God, he can be boring sometimes. All he talks about is work and projects. Mike still gives me butterflies after all these years. There was so much more. Messages spanning years. Plans to meet up when I was out of town for work. Comments about how I was a good provider. But Mike was more exciting. Jokes at my expense about how oblivious I was. Screenshots of my text to her that they'd apparently laughed about together. Then I found emails. Thousands of them, going back our entire relationship. Some innocent enough, others explicitly sexual, making reference to hotel meetups and our special spot that I later figured out was a lakeside cabin owned by Mike's family. There were even emails from during her pregnancies, which made me question everything. I took screenshots of everything and emailed them to myself, then went straight to our financial records. Over the past 5 years, Sarah had been transferring $500 to $800 every month from our joint account to her personal account, the one I never checked because I trusted her completely. When I added it all up, she'd taken almost $40,000 of my money I broke my back earning while she was apparently living a double life. I dug deeper into her personal account statements, which she'd conveniently saved PDFs of, organized by year. At least she was tidy with her betrayal. Lots of transfers to someone labeled only as ML. Mike Lawson, I assumed. Hotel charges in towns where I know Mike has business trips. Expensive gifts that I never saw, including a $2,300 watch last Christmas, right after I'd been stressing about business expenses. Then came the most damning evidence. A series of text messages with Mike from around the time Josh was conceived, talking about how they needed to be careful, and how Sarah would take care of it if anything unexpected happened. Then, a few weeks later, excitement about how she'd pulled it off, and I was none the wiser, and so excited to be a dad again. I stared at a picture of Josh on my desk. He has my chin and smile, but those eyes. I'd always thought he had Sarah's eyes, but now I could see they were Mike's. When Sarah got home from dropping Josh at soccer, she waltzed in with 3 shopping bags from expensive stores, laughing at something on her phone. "Who are you texting?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady while feeling like my world was imploding. "Just Amber," she said, barely glancing up. "She sent me the funniest meme about husbands." "That's weird, because I just got off the phone with Amber. She's in Hawaii with her husband. Started their trip yesterday. Her head snapped up so fast I thought she'd get whiplash. The look on her face, pure panic, for just a second before she tried to cover it. "Oh, must be sending them from the beach then," she attempted, but her voice wavered. "Want to tell me about Mike?" I said, cutting to the chase. She went through all the predictable phases. First, denial. They were just friends. I was being paranoid. Was I checking up on her now? Then when I mentioned the Facebook messages, she switched to minimizing. It was all in the past before we were serious. Just silly girl talk with Amber. When I brought up the emails spanning our entire marriage, she tried shifting blame. I worked too much, wasn't emotionally available. She was lonely. When I mentioned the money, she got defensive. She deserved some spending money after all she did for the family, raising our kids while I got to escape to work every day. "And Josh?" I asked quietly. "Is he even mine?" The color drained from her face. "Of course he is. How could you even ask that? What kind of mother do you think I am? The kind who emails her boyfriend about pulling it off and making me think I'm the father. The kind who's been stealing from our family to fund her affair for our entire marriage. The kind who made me cut off friends while keeping her fuck buddy in our lives for 15 years. That's when she switched to tears. How she made a mistake. How she really does love me. How the kids need both parents. How she'd do anything to fix this. Classic manipulation that had worked on me countless times before. "You have 1 hour to pack your things," I told her. "Then you're leaving." "You can't kick me out," she screamed, instantly dropping the tears. "This is my house too. I'm entitled to half of everything. I'll take you for every penny in the divorce." I laughed without humor. "Actually, the house is mine. Inherited before marriage, remember? And I've got enough evidence of financial infidelity to make any judge think twice about giving you half of anything. So start packing. You can stay with your parents until we figure this out legally." She started threatening me then. Said she'd ruin me, take the kids, destroy my business with false accusations. I just pulled out my phone and started recording. "Go ahead," I said. "Threaten me more on video. That'll look great in court when I'm explaining why you're an unfit mother." She stormed upstairs and started throwing things in suitcases, screaming and crying the whole time. I texted her parents to let them know she'd be staying with them and why. Then I called Ryan to come over. I needed a witness in case she tried to claim I did something I didn't. By the time the kids got home, Sarah was gone. I told them Mom needed some time away, and we'd talk more tomorrow. That night was one of the hardest of my life, lying awake wondering if my son was actually mine, and if my entire marriage had been a lie. Spoiler alert, yes, on both counts. First thing next morning, I called Keith, 45 male, a lawyer buddy I'd done some renovation work for last year at a discount when his office needed updating. Good guy, former military, now specializes in divorce and custody cases. He was at my house within the hour, reviewing everything I'd found while letting me vent. "The house is definitely safe," he confirmed, looking through my grandpa's will and the property records. "Inherited property before marriage stays separate, as long as you didn't add her to the deed, which you didn't. The business is trickier. She could claim she supported its growth during the marriage by taking care of the home front." "Not if I can prove financial infidelity," I said, showing him the bank statements and transfers to Mike. "Plus, I've got texts where she literally calls me her ATM and jokes about getting half my business someday." Keith whistled. "This helps a lot. But what about the kids? That's going to be the hardest part." That was the knife in my heart. I loved Amy and Josh more than anything in this world, But now I couldn't help wondering if Josh was even mine. So I ordered DNA tests without telling anyone. Just swabbed the inside of my cheek and Josh's while helping him brush his teeth, sending them off to one of those 48-hour labs. While waiting for the results, I took practical steps. Changed all the locks on the house and business. Moved half the money from our joint accounts to a new account in just my name, leaving her half, more than fair, considering how much she'd already taken. Put a freeze on our joint credit cards. Told the kids' schools that only I was authorized to pick them up until further notice. I also started documenting everything. Set up cameras around the house, saved every text and email, kept a journal of all interactions. Keith had warned me that Sarah might try to paint me as abusive or unstable to get leverage in the divorce, and I wasn't taking any chances. Sarah had been staying at her parents' place, blowing up my phone with texts ranging from apologies to threats to attempts at emotional manipulation. I know I messed up, but I've always loved you. You're tearing our family apart over ancient history. The kids are devastated. Is that what you want? You'll regret this when I take everything. I never meant to hurt you. It just happened. Mike means nothing to me. You're the one I chose. Her dad called, trying to convince me to work things out for the kids' sake. I asked him point blank if he knew about Mike all along. His uncomfortable silence told me everything. So you were fine with your daughter lying to me for 15 years? Fine with her bringing her affair partner into my home, around my kids? Fine with her stealing my money to give to him? It's complicated, he offered weakly. No, it's actually very simple. Your daughter is a liar and a cheat, and you enabled her. We're done here. Tyler, my brother, showed up uninvited one day, while the kids were at school. Tried to play peacemaker. Always his role in the family. You need to give her another chance, he started. For the kids. Don't, I cut him off. Don't you dare use my kids as an excuse. You knew about Mike for years and said nothing. You watched me build a life with someone who was lying to me every single day. I only found out a few years ago, he protested, and I didn't want to ruin your family. What family? I asked. The one where my wife's been lying to me for 15 years? Where she's been stealing my money to give to her boyfriend? Where my son might not even be mine? That family? He had no answer. I told him to get out and not come back until he was ready to be an actual brother. The hardest part was telling the kids something age-appropriate. Amy, being 14 and perceptive, knew something serious was happening. Josh just seemed confused and sad. Is Mom coming back home? Josh asked during dinner. I don't know, buddy, I said honestly. Mom and I need to figure some things out. Did she do something bad? Amy asked, always straight to the point. I sighed. She broke some important promises and took money that belonged to our family. There's more to it, but that's enough for now. Amy studied my face. It's about Uncle Mike, isn't it? Smart kid. Too smart sometimes. The next 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. I was running on fumes, trying to keep the business going, take care of the kids, and deal with the legal aspects of blowing up my marriage. Sleep was a distant memory. Food had no taste. The only thing keeping me going was rage and the need to protect my kids. Sarah started telling people I was controlling and abusive, that I'd forced her out of her home. Some believed her, her family, except her brother Nick, more on him later. A couple neighbors in our upscale development who always looked down on me for working with my hands, her tennis friends from the country club I paid for but never had time to use. But others who'd known us for years weren't buying it. My employees stood by me. They'd seen how hard I worked to provide for my family while Sarah spent money like water. Ryan was a lifesaver, letting me vent when needed and helping with the kids. His girlfriend Megan, 36F, even came over to help Amy with her hair and girl stuff I had no clue about. Ryan also introduced me to James, 52 million, a former cop turned private investigator who'd helped a buddy of his in a similar situation. I hired him to dig deeper into Sarah and Mike's relationship, past and present. Meanwhile, I was trying to keep things as normal as possible for the kids, helping with homework, making meals, lots of takeout at first until I got the hang of cooking, keeping up with their activities. Josh got quieter, while Amy became more protective of both of us. Mom called me again, she told me one night while we were doing dishes. She was crying, asking if you were seeing anyone. What did you tell her? I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. Amy shrugged. I told her she lost the right to know about your personal life when she cheated on you with Uncle Mike. I nearly dropped the plate I was drying. How did you... Dad, I'm 14, not 4. I've seen how they look at each other. And I heard her on the phone with him last year when you were on that job in Columbus. She said, I love you too, when she thought I was still outside. She hesitated, then added, I should have told you. I'm sorry. I hugged her tight. This is not your responsibility. None of it. When the DNA results came back, I locked myself in my bedroom to open them. Amy was definitely mine. 99.9% match. Josh wasn't. The results showed I had a 0% chance of being his biological father. I must have sat there for hours, just staring at those papers. Josh was my son. I'd been there for his first steps, his first words, taught him to ride a bike, coached his soccer team, held him when he had nightmares. DNA didn't change that, but it did change how I viewed Sarah, if that was even possible. The next day, James the PY called with his findings. Sarah and Mike had been having an on and off affair throughout our entire marriage. Not constantly, but significantly, including around the time Josh was conceived. He found hotel receipts, witnesses who'd seen them together, even a secret email account they used to communicate. The worst part was the money trail. The funds Sarah had been funneling from our account weren't just going to Mike for loans like I'd assumed. They were going into a joint account they'd set up, apparently saving for some future together. There were even emails discussing how they'd be together once the kids are older and Dave's business is worth selling. James also found a burner phone Sarah had kept hidden at her parents' house. The text between her and Mike made me sick. They called me her meal ticket and a TM. There were jokes about how clueless I was, how easy I was to manipulate with tears and sex. Worst of all, there were explicit messages about their encounters, including times when she'd come straight from being with him to our bed. I took all this evidence to Keith, who immediately amended our divorce filing to include adultery, paternity fraud, and financial infidelity. He advised me to file for full custody of both kids. Even though Josh isn't biologically yours, he asked carefully. He's my son, I said firmly. I'm the only father he's ever known, and I'm going to keep it that way. Mike doesn't get to waltz in now and play daddy after I've done all the work for 10 years. Keith nodded with respect. We'll make that happen. Between the affair, the financial fraud, and her instability, we've got a solid case. When Sarah was served the divorce papers with all the evidence attached, she went ballistic. Showed up at the house screaming, tried to force her way in until I reminded her about the security cameras I'd installed recording everything. You can't do this to me, she shrieked. I gave you the best years of my life. No, you gave them to Mike, I responded coldly. I just paid for them. Her next move was to try turning the kids against me. She started bringing them expensive gifts during her visitation days, letting Amy stay up late watching whatever she wanted, basically trying to be the fun parent while painting me as the bad guy. When that didn't work, the kids aren't stupid, she switched tactics and started telling Amy that I was keeping them away from their mother because I was controlling and punishing her for making a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pay the power bill, Amy told her. What you did was a choice. You made it every day for years. Out of the mouths of babes. I've never been prouder. That's when I decided to sit both kids down for an age-appropriate version of the truth. Not about Josh's biological father, he wasn't ready for that, but about the lying and the money. Your mom broke promises that are really important in a marriage, I explained. She also took money from our family and gave it to someone else. I still care about her because she's your mom, but we can't be married anymore. Amy, being 14 and sharp as a tack, read between the lines. She cheated on you with Uncle Mike, didn't she? She asked quietly. I didn't answer directly. What makes you think that? The way she acts around him. And you guys look kind of similar, which is weird. She glanced at Josh, then back at me, a question in her eyes that broke my heart. Listen to me, I said firmly. You and Josh are my kids. Nothing will ever change that. Ever. Got it? She nodded, but I could see the wheels turning. The divorce was moving forward, with Sarah fighting every step of the way. She hired some expensive lawyer her parents were paying for, demanding half my business and full custody of the kids. Her filings claimed I was unstable and poisoning the children against her. Then, like some kind of divine intervention, Mike's wife Diane, 37F, yeah, he had a wife this whole time, found out about the affair through the divorce proceedings. Turns out she had no idea about Sarah, Josh, or any of it. She contacted me through Facebook, and we agreed to meet at a coffee shop halfway between our towns. Diane was actually decent. Devastated, but decent. She showed me texts from Mike panicking about the situation, admitting everything to her in a desperate attempt to save his own marriage. These texts confirmed the ongoing affair with Sarah and included details about their future plans and the money they'd been stashing away. I'm so sorry, she said, wiping away tears. I had no idea he was capable of this. We have 2 daughters. I thought we were happy. I'm sorry too, I told her honestly. None of this is your fault. We ended up talking for hours, comparing notes and filling in gaps in each other's understanding. Diane had already filed for divorce and was going after Mike for everything. especially after finding out he'd been diverting their money to the account with Sarah. Apparently, he'd been playing both sides, telling Sarah he didn't believe in marriage while being married to Diane, telling Diane he was working late while he was with Sarah. The worst part, Diane said, is that I actually met Sarah a few times at company parties. She was so friendly to my face, asking about my kids, complimenting my dress, all while sleeping with my husband. With Diane's evidence added to what I already had, Sarah's case collapsed practically overnight. Her lawyer called Keith suggesting we work something out before the next court date. Translation? She was screwed and knew it. Meanwhile, Sarah's lifestyle was catching up with her. Without access to my income, and with her parents getting tired of funding her expenses, she was running out of options. According to Diane, Mike had ghosted Sarah once his own marriage started falling apart. Apparently, she wasn't so appealing when she couldn't funnel my money to him anymore, and actually expected him to step up. Sarah's brother Nick, 34 male, reached out to me around this time. Unlike the rest of her family, he wasn't taking her side. I've watched her manipulate people our whole lives, he told me over a beer. She's always been the golden child who gets away with everything while everyone makes excuses for her. What she did to you and those kids is inexcusable. Nick became an unexpected ally, helping with the kids and giving me insight into Sarah's thinking. He also confirmed what I'd suspected, that Sarah had been the pursuer with Mike from the beginning, not the other way around. During this time, I focused on the kids and the business. Hired a part-time nanny housekeeper named Laura, 42 female, to help with the kids after school since my work schedule wasn't always predictable. Laura was a godsend, a former elementary school teacher who genuinely cared about Amy and Josh's well-being. She helped Josh with his reading struggles in a way that actually made him enjoy books, and she could even keep up with Amy's advanced math homework. The temporary custody arrangement gave me primary custody with Sarah getting weekend visitation. She missed or canceled half of those visits, always with some excuse. She wasn't feeling well. She had an important meeting. She couldn't handle seeing the kids in that environment. The kids noticed, especially Amy. "Mom doesn't really want to see us, does she?" she asked one night while we were making dinner. "I think your mom is going through a lot right now," I said, trying to be fair despite everything. "She loves you. She's just struggling with the changes. She only calls me when she wants to complain about you," Amy said. "Or to ask if you're dating anyone. Last time she asked if Laura was living here yet. That caught me off guard." "What do you tell her?" Amy shrugged. "The truth, that you're not dating. But Laura makes you smile more than Mom ever did. Kids, they see everything." The day of the final divorce hearing arrived faster than expected. I showed up with Keith, all our evidence organized and ready. Sarah arrived looking nothing like her usual polished self. Her roots were showing. Her designer outfit had been replaced with something off the rack, and the confident swagger was gone. Her expensive lawyer had been replaced with a cheaper model, and her parents weren't there. Apparently, they'd finally gotten tired of her lies too. Or maybe they just couldn't face me and the evidence of what their daughter had done. The judge was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who'd clearly seen it all. She reviewed the evidence methodically, occasionally looking up to ask clarifying questions or to give Sarah a look that could freeze hell when another lie was exposed. Sarah's infidelity, the ongoing affair, the financial theft, her recent neglect of visitation, it all painted a clear picture. I was awarded full legal and physical custody of both kids, with Sarah getting standard visitation rights that she'd have to actually show up for. The house remained mine, obviously, and she got exactly zero of my business. The judge even threw out her claim for alimony, citing her egregious conduct during the marriage. The cherry on top? The judge ordered her to repay the $40,000 she'd stolen, plus my legal fees of $26,000. Sarah started crying in the courtroom, claiming she couldn't possibly pay. "You should have thought about that before taking money from your children's future," the judge said coldly. "The court doesn't look kindly on parties who fund their affairs with marital assets." After the hearing, Sarah followed me to the parking lot, all tears and desperation. "Dave, please," she begged. "I can't afford that kind of payment. I can barely make rent as it is. My parents are cutting me off." "Not my problem," I said, unlocking my truck. "You made your choices for 15 years. These are the consequences. What about the kids? Don't you want them to have a mother who can provide for them during visitation?" I turned to face her. "You mean like you've been providing during all those visitations you've canceled? The ones where you spend the whole time trying to pump them for information about me, instead of actually being present for them?" "I've made mistakes," she admitted, tears streaming down her face. "Terrible mistakes. But I'm their mother. Please, just help me out financially until I get back on my feet. I'll pay you back, I swear." You should ask Mike, I said. Oh, wait. He dumped you once you couldn't funnel my money to him anymore, didn't he? Funny how that works. Her face hardened. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Seeing me suffer? I'm not enjoying any of this. But actions have consequences, Sarah. You chose yours for 15 years. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Tyler. He was practically in tears, saying he'd made the biggest mistake of his life and wanted to make amends. Turns out Sarah had tried to move in with him. After her parents finally kicked her out, they found out she'd been using their credit cards without permission, and she'd stolen his wife's jewelry before disappearing. Now he suddenly understood what kind of person she really was. 15 years too late, bro, I said, and hung up. Mike wasn't doing much better, according to Diane, who'd become something of a friend through all this shared trauma. He'd lost his job after his boss found out he'd been conducting his affair on company time and using company resources. He had the nerve to reach out through a mutual acquaintance, saying he wanted to make things right and be part of Josh's life. I sent him a simple response: a copy of Josh's birth certificate with my name as the father, and a court order I'd already filed that would require him to pay 10 years of backdated child support if he ever wanted to assert paternity rights. Never heard from him again. The most satisfying revenge came about 6 months after the divorce was finalized. Sarah hit rock bottom, living in a crappy studio apartment, working as a receptionist at a hair salon, and drowning in debt. She showed up at the house one evening when Laura and the kids were making dinner. I stepped outside to talk to her, not wanting another scene in front of the kids. I can't do this anymore, she sobbed. I've lost everything. My home, my kids, my friends, even my parents barely speak to me. I need your help, Dave. What do you want, Sarah? I asked tiredly. I want another chance. I made terrible mistakes. Please, Dave. The kids need their mother. You're still their mother. You have visitation rights that you barely use. That's not what I mean, she said. I want us to be a family again. I'll do anything. I laughed. There is no us anymore. Is it because of her? Sarah spat, looking toward the house where Laura was visible through the kitchen window. The nanny? Really, Dave? Laura is more of a mother to those kids in the past year than you've been their entire lives, I said coldly. She loves them for who they are, not what they represent. And she loves me for who I am, not what I can provide. That was the final blow. Sarah collapsed into tears again, begging for another chance. When that didn't work, she switched to threats. She'd take me back to court, she'd tell Josh the truth about Mike, she'd ruin my business reputation. Go ahead, I said. Josh already knows, by the way. Her head snapped up. You told him? He asked, and I don't lie to my children. Unlike some people. Today, 8 months later, Laura and I are engaged. Amy is thriving in high school. Straight A's and made the volleyball team. Josh is back to his energetic self, still soccer-obsessed and now calling me dad, with more meaning than ever. The business is booming. Just landed a contract to renovate an entire apartment complex. Sarah? Still trying to crawl her way back, texting me late at night with nostalgia and regrets. I don't bother responding anymore. Sometimes people ask if I regret how harshly I dealt with Sarah's betrayal. I don't. I gave her 15 years of my life, my trust, and my love. She gave me lies, theft, and disrespect. The best revenge isn't just living well. It's making sure they realize exactly what they lost, right when it's too late to get it back. Thanks for reading this far, if you did. Feels good to get it all out there.